ఈ చాప్టర్ బాబా గౌతముని మనసులో పెట్టుకుని రాశారని అనిపిస్తోంది. దానికి ఒక ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఉంది, మళ్ళీ చెప్తా. జై బాబా.
నేను పుట్టలేదు కూడా,
పుట్టలేదు ముందు సోల్ బాబా ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్
జనంలో అంటారా? సరే, ఓకే. ఓకే,
హెడ్డింగ్ చెప్పు.
So, before we start, discourses చదువుదాం అని చెప్పి డిసైడ్ చేసుకున్నాం కదా, సమ్ టైమ్ లాస్ట్ ఇయర్ నాన్న బుక్ అయిపోయిన తర్వాత. సో ఐ వాజ్ లుకింగ్ అట్ ఎంత కవర్ చేసాము, ఎంత కవర్ చేయలేదు అని చూశాను అనమాట. సో దీస్ ఆర్ ద టాపిక్స్ వీ హ్యావ్ కవర్డ్. కరణ్ ఏమో న్యూ హ్యుమానిటీ అండ్ ట్రావెల్స్ ఆఫ్ న్యూ వరల్డ్ ఆర్డర్, ప్రసన్న సెల్ఫిష్నెస్ చేశాడు, ప్రవీణ్ యాక్షన్ అండ్ యాక్షన్, ప్రవీణ్ కండిషన్స్ ఆఫ్ హ్యాపీనెస్ కూడా చేశాడు, అండ్ చంటి లైఫ్ ఆఫ్ స్పిరిట్ చేసినట్టున్నాడు, అది కొంచెం డౌట్ఫుల్ నాకు. లవ్ ఏమో సగం చేశాడు సిద్ధు. మళ్ళా పవన్ ఏమో ఈగో 3 చేశాడు, ఈగో. అండ్ క్వాలిఫికేషన్ ఆస్పిరెంట్స్. గీత, నువ్వు అన్నీ చేసావు కదా గీత? క్వాలిఫికేషన్స్ ఆఫ్ ఆస్పిరెంట్ అన్నీ చేసావా లేకపోతే కొన్ని చేసావా?
అంతా చేశాను, మొత్తం చాప్టర్ ఫినిష్
కలిపేసి. ఓకే, ఇప్పుడు నేనేమో అవెన్యూస్ ఆఫ్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ చేస్తున్నాను, అండ్ ఫార్మేషన్ అండ్ ఫంక్షన్ ఆఫ్ సంస్కారాస్ కూడా నేను చేశాను. దీంట్లో ద రీజన్ యాక్చువల్లీ ఐ వాజ్ స్టార్టెడ్ డూయింగ్ సంస్కారాస్ అనమాట, అండ్ ఐ జంప్డ్ టు దిస్ avenues of understanding. Actually, this is the first chapter we should have read.
Correct. Beautiful chapter.
Okay, very very beautiful chapter, very interesting chapter. అందరూ ఇది మ్యూట్ చేసేసుకోండి, అందరూ మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి ప్లీజ్. సో లెట్స్ సీ వేర్ వి ఆర్. టోటల్ టాపిక్స్ ఇన్ దిస్ కోర్స్ ఏమో 84 ఉన్నాయన్నమాట. we covered 19. That means we have covered almost 23%. So we still have to cover 76% anamata. But along with that, we are also doing other aspects, anger ani, selfishness ani, selfishness kaadu, forgiveness ani, అలాగా మిగతా చాప్టర్లు కూడా చేస్తున్నాము. డూ ద బెస్ట్ అండ్ లీవ్ ద రెస్ట్ మీ అనే టాపిక్ మీద, ఫియర్ అని దాని మీద నేను చేశాను, అట్లాగనమాట కొన్ని. సో మొత్తానికి వీ హ్యావ్ కవర్డ్ 23% అండ్ అదర్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ అనమాట. స్టిల్ దెర్ ఆర్ లాట్ మోర్. లెట్ us see where we go. So now I am getting into the topic. So this is the avenues of understanding is the topic. తప్పకుండా చదవండి. మీరు ఆల్రెడీ చదివితే that is very good. It is in the discourses, page 94 in the 7th edition anamata. Very important. You all have to read it. Not ఒకసారి కాదు, I would suggest few times. ఒకసారి చదివితే కొద్దిగానే గ్రాస్ చేస్తాం. ఒక 5-6 సార్లు చదివితే రోజుకు ఒకసారి 5-6 సార్లు చదివారంటే this is certainly helps you. Why don't I suggest to read 7 times, 7 days, 1 time a day. ఒకసారి టైం పడుతుంది, సెకండ్ డే తక్కువ టైం పడుతుంది, అలాగా తక్కువ టైం పడుతుంది అనమాట, బికాస్ మనకు అండర్స్టాండ్ అవుతుంది కాబట్టి. కానీ బట్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ డీప్లీ దీస్ ఆస్పెక్ట్స్ అనమాట. సో లెట్ మీ స్టార్ట్ విత్ ఎ క్వశ్చన్. డస్ గాడ్ ఎగ్జిస్ట్? సో ఇఫ్ ఐ ఆస్క్ పీపుల్, దెర్ ఆర్ 2 kinds of people కదా. But none of us know whether God really exists or not. Okay? Some people say, no, there are no God, there is no God antaru. Kontamandi bayanto, yeah, God exists antaru. But apart from those people who have experienced God, if you take rest of the human beings, nobody has experienced God. But there are a lot of people who believe that God does exist. That's a different thing. Belief, that is different. Okay? Belief and knowledge go hand in hand. Even knowledge lekunda belief oka state lo untamo, with the knowledge it will take belief to a different level anamata. Even scientific aspect lo kuda we start with we believe something that we know that is happening, and then slowly we build up, and then for example, does the electron exist? Nobody knows. We can't see electron exist or not. Does the hydrogen exist? We don't know. But the experiments dwara they prove because of these experiments. So water is oxygen and two atoms of hydrogen together attached to the oxygen and cheppi prove chestar tappa nobody can see. They can see all the lines and all those things, electrons. So like that, we also need to have knowledge to develop belief on matter. Okay. So let's see the experts. Okay, we ask experts kada. Suppose we want to know any
May I ask you one quick question, May? I'm just trying to follow what you're saying.
Sure.
Sorry, is this what is in the chapter from Discourses, or is this your interpretation of the chapter of Discourses? I'm just trying to
I'm leading to that chapter, Kiran.
Oh, inka raledha. Okay, got it. This is not what is in the chapter. Okay.
No, this is not in the chapter.
Okay, this is your
something I created
as
to lead into the chapter. Okay.
Got it. Okay, good. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Jai Baba. Yeah.
So anything we want to know about some subject, how to do brain surgery, So we ask a brain surgeon who has done a lot of brain surgeries. We ask that neurosurgeon, hey, how do you do that? So we listen to his talk and all those things, right? Then we get the knowledge. So let's see what the experts say about God. If there are people who experienced God, we may not know who they are. Right now, we know Meher Baba. And we also know some other people like Sai Baba, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Sarada Mai, Vivekananda. Itla kontamandi famous personalities we know, and Baba's 5 perfect masters. They all experienced God. But we don't know what is their experience of God. They'll explain. Everybody explains what is God. But what Baba said was, no matter, nobody can really explain, even the God personalities cannot explain what is the experience of God. Suppose you never got సగుంతురోజున ఒకసారి మా దొడ్లో ఏమి చెట్లు వేసామని అడిగాం. అడిగితే సమ్ ఫ్రూట్స్, యాపిల్స్ వేసాను. యూ హ్యాడ్ అండర్స్టూడ్ వాట్ ఈస్ యాపిల్స్, దెన్ ఆప్రికాట్స్ అండ్ దెన్ పీచెస్ అని అడిగాను. చెప్పాను అనమాట. పీచెస్ ఎలా ఉంటాయి అని అడిగారు. గుర్తుందా వదిన? ప్రాబబ్లీ డోంట్ రిమెంబర్. నేను చాలా అవస్థపడ్డాను అనమాట. పీచ్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది, జాంకాయ కాదు, ఎల్లో, చాలా అవస్థపడ్డాను అనమాట. బట్ అన్లెస్ షీ ఈట్స్ పీచ్, షీ వోంట్ నో వాట్ ఈస్ ఎ పీచ్, రైట్? పీచ్ అనేది ఇండియాలో దొరకదు, మేబీ బాటిల్ దొరుకుతుందేమో. సేమ్ థింగ్ అనమాట. బట్ వాట్ దే సే ఈజ్ God does exist. Okay? Every living entity's goal is to experience the God state at one point of time, ultimately. Every living thing. This is only to take into assumptions on matter. It is the mind that come in the way to experience that God state when experiencing the human state. It is the mind's nature that it experiences that it is separate from others and that it is not God. Adanamata. So these are the few points that came to my mind. I thought, Anamata. So then there are always 56 people on the earth who experiences God. That's what Baba said. There are 56 human beings living on the earth. They may be mostly in India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or Afghanistan, but mostly Baba said they live in the East. Where in the East, we don't know. Mostly in India. Why India? India is the most spiritually elevated, that is closest to the home point. That is why most convenient to live in India. God, most importantly, what everyone says is, all the experts says is, God exists in everyone's heart. Now, do I know Or does anybody who believe very strongly know that God really exists in the art? No, it's just a belief. It's just a understanding. First, it'll be in intellectual understanding. Later on, they experience that love. See, that's all they can say. Okay. So with this introduction, let me go to the actual topic. Understand the avenues of understanding. How many ways are there to understand? That's where I'm going to go. Okay. And let me also give one more aspect, and that is the tools what we have is nothing but the mind. And if we look at the functions of the mind, let's revamp. We all know what are the functions of the mind. How do we get to understand anything? So using our mind, right? Suppose I ask you, what is 34 plus 45? Then you just think about it, and how do you come up with that answer? We use intellect part of the mind. That is what we use to figure out things. But one thing we have to understand, intellect cannot love. Remember that. Intellect does its job in our own mind. It cannot love. Okay? What are the other parts of the mind? And then we have thoughts and we have emotions. Okay? Emotionals. We have feelings. We get enjoyment. We get the feeling of love. We get anger. We are angry. Anger is something experiencing, right? We experience in our mind. Happiness is experienced in the mind. We all know that. Okay? And then we get thoughts. First, thoughts vasthayi. So these are the three sections we can divide our mind so that we can understand them. That's all there is to it. So now I'm slowly going into the topic, worldly matters and tools of understanding. Okay, worldly matters means take everything in the world, anything, So how do we have to use appropriate tools for appropriate aspects in the respective worlds. Okay. So worldly matters. What are the worldly matters? Just give some example. Learning. I took a class in math and I want to pass that exam. Okay. So I use, what do I use? I use intellect. How do I buy a TV, a good TV? So we do research anamata. Ee screen బాగుంటుందా, ఆ screen బాగుంటుందా, ప్లాస్మా బాగుంటుందా లేకపోతే ఎల్ఈడి బాగుంటుందా, కొత్త వస్తుంటాయి అన్నమాట. అవన్నీ ఏంటి? So we Google it and we find out, read about it, what are the people's experience. How do you do that? We use intellect part of the mind. Because ultimately, what is the goal? We want to have the best TV. Best TV, what is depends upon our money situation. Okay. How to figure out to deal with how to figure out to deal with my manager. Suppose my manager is giving me a lot of problems. How do I deal with him? We use different avenues, different ways of thinking. This is one way, that is one way. Sometimes you have to give back to him. Sometimes you have to be very humble. Sometimes you have to listen, even though it doesn't logically make sense, and do everything what he says. These are all the possibilities we do. All these things we use intellect, right? You all have come across these situations. How about driving car? Initially, now we just sit in the car and we don't even think about it. We just drive. We go to all the technique of driving car. We learned it initially when we didn't know how to drive. We used all the intellect. What are the things we have to be careful? What speed do we have to maintain? All these things. Now, what about spiritual matters? So spiritual matters, I put some categories like love, joy, faith, hope, peace. Some of these things I put it as spiritual matters, right? All right. Understanding worldly matters. Now I'm coming into the Baba's discourses, avenues of understanding. Worldly matters can be understood using the mind and intellect. Based on the data given through, see, how do we get the information? We have the 5 senses, right? We get that information through the senses. And then we use our mind, intellect, to process this information and deduct and conclusions, all these things. How did you deal with your 1-year-old baby? Did you use intellect or love? Work దగ్గర ఉంటాం. So we use all the intellect to figure out all the problems at work. Now you came home. Let's say you have 1-year-old baby. Do you use any intellect at all? We don't, right? We completely keep our intellect at rest. What do we use? We just enjoy whatever they are doing. నడుస్తుంటారు, పడుతుంటారు, ఈ బొమ్మ తెస్తారు, ఆ బొమ్మ ఎరక్కొడతారు, ఏదో there is no logic or intellectual. We don't, అయ్యయ్యో పాడేసావా అంటాం, అయ్యో ఎరక్కొట్టేసావా అంటాం, ఎరక్కొట్టకూడదు అలాగా ఏవో చెప్తాం, మరి బాల్ వేస్తాం, బాల్ దాస్తాం. All these games we play just to make the baby happy, just to play with the baby. So here we don't use our intellect at all. We use love, right? Spirit can be understood with the spirit itself. What does it mean? The best approach for the understanding of the spirit is through the heart. See, Baba came straight to the point and matter. Not through the mind. The mind is accustomed to work upon material things, and its driving power for this intellectual understanding of material objects is derived from lusts and cravings. So if you look at all the goals of our, why are we using intellect? The ultimate point is either lustful things or cravings we have. Manchi food now, okay? Lust, or we want to enjoy various things that touches to our senses. When mind is turned towards spiritual problems, we are used to tackling everything intellectually. So when the mind is turned towards spiritual problems, ఎవరో చెప్పారు, ఏ మెహర్ బాబా గాడ్ అంటున్నాడు అని. What do we use? We use the same intellect. It tackles them along lines it is accustomed to. Then we fail. It fails because all concepts that the intellect evolves for knowledge of material things are inadequate for understanding the spirit. చెప్పారు కదా, spirit has to be deal with not with intellect. It has to deal with the heart and with love. And whereas we are not used to using our love, we are only using mostly intellect. That is the problem. The mind is accustomed to work upon material things, and its driving power for the intellect understanding of metal objects derived from the lust and cravings. Japan already vachindi. When mind is turned towards the spiritual problems, it tackles them along lines it is accustomed to. It fails because all concepts that the intellect evolves for knowledge of material things are inadequate for understanding the spirit. It is like trying to see through the ears or hear with the eyes. So we have to use appropriate sense organs to use. మంచి పాట వస్తుంటే we use ears. మంచి సినిమా చూస్తుంటే చూస్తాం మనం కళ్ళతోటి. ఒకదాని బదులు ఇంకోటి వాడితే it doesn't work. So mind is saturated with multiplicity and separateness and feeds the egocentric tendencies that divide humanity and make it selfish and possessiveness. You see, Ravi? Heart is intuitively grasps the values. values are progressively realized in life as he goes through the diverse experiences of the world. Values are very, very important, spiritual values. That gives us discipline, that saves us from any trouble. దొంగతనం చేయకూడదు, అదొక వాల్యూ అనమాట. ఎప్పుడు we have to be nice to the other people. That helps. ఇది అనమాట. Values are centered on arriving spiritual understanding. ఆ వాల్యూస్ వాడుతుంటేనే మనకి కరెక్ట్ స్పిరిచువల్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ వస్తుంది అనమాట. మైండ్ ఈజ్ సెల్ఫిష్. మైండ్ ఏముంటుంది, గ్రాటిఫికేషన్స్ వస్తుంటుంది అంతే. వెరాస్ హార్ట్ అండ్ ఇట్ క్రియేట్స్ కన్ఫ్యూజన్. మైండ్ ఈజ్ సెల్ఫిష్ కదా, ఈ సెల్ఫిష్ వలన టోటలీ ఫోకస్డ్ ఆన్ ద సెల్ఫిష్, సో ఇట్స్ క్రియేటెడ్ కన్ఫ్యూజన్. బికాస్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ దెర్ ఈస్ కాన్ఫ్లిక్ట్ అనమాట. Heart feels the unity of life, wants to fulfill itself through the life of love, sacrifice, and service. This is only for the people who nurtured their attitude of love anamata. Appude ivanni bayatku vastayi. Ade total ga if you never ignore completely, you don't even know. You think it's all theory. Only when you nurture the love aspect in yourself, then only it makes sense. Otherwise, pure intellect, it only makes you selfish. Keen about giving instead of taking. Heart always wants to give instead of taking anamata. Heart derives its driving power from the innermost spiritual urge, expressing itself through the immediate intuitions of the inner life. Heart does not care about proofs or intellectual corroborations. Mind ఏంటి, గాడ్ ఉన్నాడు అంటే నాకు ప్రూఫ్ కావాలంటాం అనమాట. బికాస్ that's how we are used to. That's how we are used to using our intellect in the material world. That's the problem. Mind craves assurance or conviction. When the mind encroaches heart, it needs assurances and convictions as a precedent condition that must be fulfilled before there is a release of love. But love is spontaneous. Burra asla vaadadanamata love. It cannot be a conclusion of reasoning. Mind anta reasoning kavalsini ani aduguta untadi. What is the reason you're doing? What is the logic? And that logic and reasoning, my own reasoning. Suppose I decide something, that is my own mental reasoning or mental logic anamata. That need not be everybody's. నేను ప్రొజెక్ట్ చేస్తాను అనమాట. I project. Everybody should have this reasoning. See, that is the selfishness anamata. Many want me to give proof by performing miracles. Baba చెప్పారు అనమాట. Many want me to give proof by performing miracles before they start loving me. This is only a form of selfishness and often a hindrance in releasing the highest form of love. See, what Baba does is he only gives the seed of divine love in our heart. That is what he does. And that is exactly what we want, because that is the one which leads us to the higher planes. As long as we are selfish, we don't go anywhere. We are just getting along laterally and matter. God's nature as the ocean of love cannot be grasped by the mind. God has to be known through love and not through an intellectual search for miracles. Jai Baba. When the person has his eye on the results of the action, instead of being concerned solely with their intrinsic worth, he is trying to tackle spiritual problems through the mind alone, and in doing so, he is interfering with the proper functioning of the heart. So we have to be careful. First of all, we have to understand love. Second thing, we have to use the love. So మన మైండ్ వాడేటప్పటికి అక్కడ మైండ్ ఏంటి, purely selfishness kada, whereas heart is not. So akkada conflict vachestanu annamata. It interferes. So I-ness, he uses only mind. I-ness, I consciousness. That we have to be aware. But at the same time, how do you be away from that? It is the same I consciousness that you have to use. That's all we have. Mind wants to have all kinds of things and therefore seeks objective proofs, convictions, and assurances. We already talked about it. The demand of the mind fetters the spontaneous outflow of love, which at once depends upon the further true spirituality. You cannot love through the intellect. What we may get through the mind is a theory of love, but not love itself. The hidden depths of the ocean of life can be gauged only by sounding of heart. Intellect of most persons has most wants. Spiritual point of view, such life is the lowest type of human existence. The highest type of existence is free from all wants, is characterized by sufficiency of or contentment. See, contentment anedi is a spiritual value anamata. So we have to use it all the time. We have to be content with what we have. Because everything is given by God. Everything is given by somebody. And we have to be content what we have. The moment we ask for more or more and more, we are in trouble. Happiness comes from only when there is complete freedom from wants. అది ఈ హ్యాపీనెస్ మనం ఏమనుకుంటామంటే మన మైండ్ ఏం చెప్తుంటుంది, go for more, then you will be more happy. More money, save more money. You already have $1 million. Get 2 million, you will be more happy. 1 million ki enta happy ga unte, 2 million inkanta happy ga untavo. Look at all these rich people, how happy they are anukuntam. But what we don't know is how happy they are. The only thing we know is how happy I am. Not wanting is very difficult to attain as long as the life is mind-ridden. One has to go beyond the mind to experience the spiritual bliss of desirelessness. That is what we have to practice. Desirelessness. Harmony of the mind and the heart. See, this is the mind vadali. Mind vadakunda we cannot get along in this world. And Baba says use the heart also. But how do we use mind and heart? There's a challenge. That is a learning path. We have to understand how to do that. Spiritual understanding is born of harmony between the mind and the heart. This is what we have to struggle to learn, how to get this harmony. This harmony does not require the mixing up of their functions. Indaka lack of knowledge toti heart vishal, mind toti, mind vishal, heart toti chesavante, we get confusion, we'll be in chaos. So we have to understand where we have to use what. Akkada harmony develop chesukovalannamata. It means cooperative function. Mind vadala, heart vadala. But akkada edi vadala, ఏ balance తో వాడాలా అనేది నేర్చుకోవాలి. This harmony can be attained through intelligent adjustment. Adida, intelligent adjustment. See, again you have to use the intellect there. How to get this adjustment anedi. This harmony of mind and heart is the most important condition of the integral, undivided life of spiritual understanding. If we struggle to get this, once you become perfect, you will be the most happiest person in the world. It is possible. Right now, you may say, I am very happy, but you can be more happy. It's the best. how far can you go? That much happiness you can be. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. That is the content of the Avenues of Understanding. Please read it. Please read it with love. Love for Baba or love for any form you like. And try to use intellect to understand what he's saying. And that will help us. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Now let's go for the. Over to you, Gautam.
Okay, that's nice, crisp and clear. So we'll start off with randomly here. And first we'll start off with